Welcome to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Today, brothers and sisters, I want to introduce you and to our viewing audience to one of the members of the Southwest region, or also known as the Southwest region ministry class. Another member. You have seen on last week, we had the opportunity to interview our brother Shaheed Muhammad from Muhammad Mosque number 48. But today, brothers and sisters, we have another brother who I am inspired by and I learn a lot from. And he is, when I tell you, brother possesses so many talents, he does. As you're going to hear through this interview, you're going to see it's our brother Mario X, who is the student coordinator of Oklahoma City, OKC as we call it. So he'll be joining us, and he's one of the many talented brothers who serves under our student regional minister, Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad of the Southwest region, who you're going to see on this clip.
Look at all the statistics as it relates to black people, and you ask yourself the question, that sounds impossible. Huh? That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the most difficult job that any man has ever had, because he has to take a people who are dead in all aspects of life that you consider life. We are dead. And the only value we have in this world is sport and play and song and dance, but they don't see us as a serious people. It is very difficult for people who have this preoccupation with owning private property to respect the people they once owned this property. It's in their DNA. They can't help it. This is why they hate Sylvester Turner, and this is why they hate Barack Obama. They can't see themselves following no black man nowhere. And they don't like it when black men outsmart them. They can't stand it. It makes them crazy. It makes them, as they say, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Wow. It's our student regional minister, Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad. And the brother we're going to hear from serves under him in this region. Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Willie. Thank you, sir, for having
me. Man, thank you for joining us, brother. Let's get right down to the business. I like to jump right into it. One of the benefits of doing this show is that I and my audience have the opportunity to hear the marvelous personal journey and stories of our guests on how they came to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So with that being said, can you share with our audience how you came to join the Nation of Islam?
Yes, sir. I think I was introduced to Islam in particular through my travels. I had the opportunity to travel to West Africa with the university that I attended, the only HBCU here in Oklahoma. And while on that journey, one of my uncles, by the name of, he called himself Zabiri Zulu, Brother Jimmy, he started changing. I started realizing he was a gangster disciple. He had took his, the goals had came out his mouth. His skin started clearing up. He lost a lot of weight, and he was very, his appearance had changed. And I was wondering, I said, man, he's on to something. But he had started studying black intellectuals. And he had ran across Ivan Van Sertima, John Henry Clark, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It was so new that it was almost something that we automatically knew to stay away from, because it wasn't coming out of the Bible per se of what he was gathering that was making his transformation in his life. On my way to Africa, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to what he was trying to teach us, but he told me something that I still stick with today that I often share with young people. He said, when you get to Africa, he said, make sure to take your shoes off so that the earth can recognize that blood that left made it back. When he made that statement, that made a lot of sense to me, and I did do so. And shortly after that, while in Africa, I heard that it was a group of people that were looking for me. And I thought maybe that they were going to say that maybe I had done something I didn't have any business doing. And so I hid for about 2 weeks. And when they finally approached me, they did a very close assessment to my features, and even as much as touching on my bone structure in my face. And they said, well, he's one of us, but we don't know where he comes from. And I said, well, what are you? And they said, we're Fulanis. And I said, Fulani. They said, that's our tribe. And so I went back to the hotel and I started Googling. And one thing that they told me in particular is that their tribe is 99.9% Muslims. They almost have this saying that to be a Fulani is to be a Muslim, because that's all that they know. The Fulani people actually brought the Quran to West Africa. And so I started studying Islam initially in Africa. When I got back to America, I continued that search while in college, and I was visiting the Black Heritage Library. And on one particular day, I went in looking for something, and I seen a book called Message to the Black Man. And at that time, I took that book back to the dorm, and that started my journey. I've been here ever since.
Oh, beautiful, man. That is a very unique testimony, man. And it's, you know, I know somebody, it's interesting when I meet people who, when they've had the opportunity to go to the continent, how they're often, you know, people who natives are there talk about how they resemble people from the tribes there. And it just shows that actual connection, man. It's one of the reasons why I think many of us should try to do those ancestral blood genealogy things. That is interesting. So I want to ask you this question. Can you share with us how you came to be the student coordinator there in Oklahoma City?
Yes, sir. So initially, before I joined the nation, there was I belonged to I guess you could say the Waterdean community.
Mm-hmm.
It was a brother in college, and he was very, very inspired by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And oftentimes I would invite him to come to the masjid, even though I had been there myself for a short period of time. And he told me that he wanted to specifically visit with the followers of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by Minister Farrakhan. I didn't understand what he was looking for. But one day I was on my way to make prayer, and I seen a brother in a bow tie. And so I was excited, and I was initially excited for that brother because I was going to let him know, hey, I found the guys that you were looking for. And so I approached the brother. He gave me a paper. I gave him the greetings, and he told me where their meeting location was. And so I visited, and although the place that they were at that time was a very humble place, I think anybody that was not coming with the proper intentions would have done an assessment of where they were and judged them based on where they were versus where they were trying to go as a believing community. And what I heard come out of that webcast, it was Brother Ishmael Muhammad speaking that day, was something that was so profound that it pierced past all of whatever self-taught information that I had come across. It just pierced to the depths of my soul, because it was belief, it was God, it was righteousness, and then it was specific to our condition, what we needed, and who our enemy was, the progress we needed to make. It was so personal that I just was almost at a loss of words of what I had heard. And so I was so eager to get back to the brother and to let him know that I actually did find the nation. And I made myself aware that day that this is exactly where I needed to be. And so as soon as I came in, as you know, Brother Willie, I initially came from street organizations. And so I had a love for brotherhood. I use that as a base to say that I had a love for unionism and brotherhood. While in college, I came across Sigma Romeo, and I came across Kappa Alpha Psi. And so I like to tell brothers that I traded in my flag, of what the brothers in the street community would say. I traded in my flag for a flag, or traded in my rag for K Psi, for Freemasonry. I traded it in for Sigma Romeo, and I traded all of that in for the Star and Crescent. And so when I got there to the study group, I had already came with certain trainings, right? I understood how Robert Rules of Order worked. I understood how to motivate the middle. I understood how to make use of those who may not be they may not be people that, they don't know how to recruit, but they know how to organize. So I understood how to maneuver moving pieces as relate to men and motivating men. And so I brought all of that training that I had and I brought it to the nation. And I would like to say within the first week or two, I was bringing in so many people from the colleges because I had already had a moral standard, or I had already had certain things about myself that they admired. I just found a place that I could put it and give God the glory for it. So I studied under Brother Terry Muhammad at the time, who was our coordinator. He's still my mentor to this day. Studied under him, but it was never my intention or never my thought to be a coordinator or in the ministry class at all. I just wanted to be there to be a helper. And he became ill. And Brother Al Shahid of Dallas came to me, told me that, brother, we think that this would work well for you. And at some time in the beginning, I kind of wrestled with the thought of it. But after some time, I asked Brother Terry this one question, which helped me to make my decision. I said, brother, why did you decide to do it? He said, brother, because I didn't want the wrath of God if I didn't do it. And that put in my mind, like, this is something that Allah needs my help. The believers need my help. I need my help. And so I'm going to put my best foot forward, and I'm going to go to try to help my nation.
Wow. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And with that being said, I'll ask you this next question. So how long have you been serving in the particular post, and what are some of the profound lessons that you have learned while serving?
Yes, sir. I believe I took the post, brother. It was in 2020, right towards the beginning stages of the pandemic. I joined, and by the time I took the post, we had a few meetings, and then the mosque closed, or the study group closed due to the pandemic. And so a lot of my leadership at that time had to be during that transition when we had to go virtual. And I think for us, it was a great trial, but it taught so many lessons. And one of the lessons that it taught me is that you got to walk the path of the messenger. What that means is that you're going to have to be tried, but you're going to have to take a proper understanding of when you're tried. It is not to break you. It is to reveal your temperament, your spirit, and what you say that you believe to yourself. And so I've learned to take obstacles and different things like that with a better attitude, which is something that I didn't have, that college never taught me. But it came from the most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And once I was able to listen to the lectures and hear about the different trials that he underwent and how he persevered, and he never questioned God. He always thanked God through his trials and his struggles. I knew that that was something that I needed to develop within myself. So just patience. By profession, I'm a therapist. So I have not even something that I learned in my degree, but I have a natural, I would call it a natural skill of being patient and understanding. I look for the better half of people in every situation. And it is very much so helped me in this post because I've learned to see people in stages. I could see an adult and still see the young child in them that needs guidance. Or I could see the old person that still has wisdom of his youth in him. And so I use all of those different things, the way that I see the world and things that came with me naturally. And I use it to be patient and to try to inspire the believers here in Oklahoma City to stay the course, I would say. But I would say, brother, taught me patience, and it taught me the value of us taking responsibility for areas within our community that need assignment. I understand the power of us stepping out on faith and putting ourselves in a position to be leaders, because sometimes just because it's us, the appearance alone, if it being a black man or a black woman in leadership, will inspire the next generation because they have someone that they can lay their eyes upon, that they can relate to.
You talked about, because that was a question I was going to ask you, talked about how you being a therapist by profession, how that helps you in your ministry, right? And so
Yeah.
that leads me to want to talk about, just mental health, because that's also what you deal with. And before I get into that, can you share with the audience the work that you do and where you do it as it relates to being a therapist?
Yes. So I'm a licensed therapist here in Oklahoma. Primary of my training was community-based agencies, but I found a keen interest in men who are incarcerated or who were previously incarcerated. And so now I serve as a mental health coordinator within the Department of Corrections for men who may not be returning to society. And what I've learned from that experience is that when I went into the prison, Brother Willie, it was not my intention to announce what my post assignment was, but for me to be there and kind of be a fly on the wall so that I could see my people, what they were up against, how they were treated, what help did they ask for, what help did they run from. I wanted to see them in their natural environment. And I did see that. I had brothers call me out my name. Never had anyone try to assault me. But had been threatened, not thinking that you're there for the right reasons. Some of them would often make the statement of, "Oh, you're here for a check," and things like that. Things that they've heard probably in their school days and that they transferred over into every area of their life, right? Even with us out there with the final call, when you think about it, Brother Willie, anytime our people see somebody with a suit on, they automatically think this person wants something from me. They want something from me. They don't think this person trying to give me something. And so I seen a lot of things within the prison system. To be honest, probably for the first 2 months, I couldn't even sleep because I was not comfortable with seeing men my age or younger or older that had spent the majority of their lives in that condition. And so it was very hard for me to wrestle with in the initial stages of it. And it took some time for me to really understand that, hey, these men need help. And whatever skills that I have, I'm going to give to those men. And really, the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by Minister Farrakhan, has given me the proper language on how to reach these men. And it's something that I think even until this day, I've had men that have said, you said something to me yesterday that I've never had somebody say to me, and I'm going to keep it with me. And so every time I go to work and come home, I feel empowered to continue to do the service. But I do psychotherapy in the prison system, beloved.
Wow. And that leads to this question. I want to ask you this because this is a very real experience, despite people wanting to acknowledge it sometimes. It's getting better. But there are people who believe who are of faith, be it Muslim, be it Christian, be it Jew, be it whatever it is. But even despite having faith, they may have their bouts or their experiences with depression, right? So from a person you have student minister on one side, not on one side, but you're student minister and a person who's a licensed therapist. What would you say regarding that to a person who of faith and they find themselves battling depression?
Right. I think mental health, just health and wellness and the proper course of life, none of us have been introduced to that in this world. And so we mask our pain with what we can spend, how we can feel, what we can gain. And so when you look at depression, some of these things are natural encounters. Anxiety is something that we have to live with. Depression is something that can be situational that we have to experience. But I think for us, because we grow up in areas that are without certain things, homes that don't have the proper guidance in certain areas, or our parents may be depressed, a lot of the things that happen to us in the developmental stages of our brain. And so what happens is by the time we become full adults, we've already developed a perceived way that the world is going to treat us or how we should treat ourselves. For example, if a child is crying as a child and no one comes to relieve that child of what is causing that child to cry, instinctively the child will stop crying, because in his mind there's no one coming. And there's often times where you see children have died, and the cause of death will be failure to thrive, right? And I think us as a people, we're spiritually and morally dead because we have a failure to thrive. We haven't been introduced to a truth that will give us life to thrive. And so as it deals with mental health, I think for Black people, we've reached a course in our history where we cannot mask, or we cannot cope with the trinkets of this world to ease our soul. And so I think mental health is very much so related to spiritual health. And I think this is why it's so important that Islam, which is peace, that our people be introduced properly to Islam as taught by the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to relieve us of some of those traumatic experiences, those misconceptions. I like to call them error thoughts, how we treat people and how we treat ourselves as well. One thing on this note here, Brother Willie, that I recently thought about, I said, man, with all of these influencers, social media, very few of us, and I don't like to generalize, but there's a large percentage of young people and adults, a lot of us don't have a lot of original thoughts. The reason I say that is because every time we look for a question to be answered, we don't really go into ourselves to answer the question. We look and see what other people say about it. And that keeps us from being able to have the competence and confidence to be able to add to whatever literature is out there. And that's something that I think it comes along with the generation and the culture that is developed now, is that we don't have the opportunity to be creatives as it relates to medicine, as it relates to religion, as it relates to science and things like that, because we think that those who came before has already put a cap on certain things. And so depression, anxiety, all of those things are part of the human experience. It's when it keeps you from moving forward, when it keeps you from thriving in life, that those things have to be addressed on a higher level. And just calling your mom or dad isn't always going to be the solution with certain things.
And you hear, I know you've heard this before, where it talks about how within the Black community that some people view speaking to a therapist as, you know, that's an indicator that you're crazy or something is wrong and all of that type of stuff. How do you, from a perspective of a therapist and also a Muslim and also a student minister, you know, how can you speak to that improper view, and how can it become combated?
Right. And I like the challenge. I've heard that so for one, it's a cultural thing. I've seen in prison where gang members are suffering from trauma, but it would make the group look bad. And so they don't go get the necessary help. They learn to deal with it, or they learn to cope with it through drugs and over sexual activity and different things like that. They learn to cope with it in different ways. But I think it's a conversation that we need to have. We've been taught not to trust too much of anything in this world. And so that's just another area that we've been taught not to trust. But what I usually tell the brothers, and they say, I don't trust it, I don't believe that. And I said, okay, but we trust meth. But you trust marijuana. You trust black tar heroin to put in your arm. But you won't trust having an open conversation, because most of them think that it's just talk therapy. They don't look at the science behind it as it relates to being able to address you with you. And so it's a therapy in a large sense. It is difficult because it points out the delusion. Like the Quran said, this world is full of delusional enjoyment. It points out those things when you're sitting in front of a good therapist and they ask you this. And I had a young brother ask me, I said, what kind of help do you need? He said, man, I want to live over on unit such and such. I said, that's a location. I said, what kind of help do you need? And so just even that alone, he had to think about it. I said, because you can have a change in, living quarters, but if the problem or the help that you need is in your head, then you're going to take it with you if it's not properly addressed. So I think for myself, having a clinician in front of the people that looks like them it takes away or it eases the a lot of the tension that comes along with it, because they can ask you and have that hard conversation with you about what they don't believe in it, you know. And I've seen that happen more times than often where I've been able, clinicians of color have been able to connect with people that others can't. They don't know how a black woman getting her hair done is therapeutic to her. They don't understand I'm not gonna say they understand. It's hard for them to conceptualize the importance of that, or why you know, a new pair of shoes on for a child going to school. How does that work for him? And so I think for us, our life experiences make us better clinician because we understand. And in often cases, we've made it through those different stages. And so I think it's just having somebody that they can relate to.
Beautiful, man. And I pray that those who are watching this particular interview, that they really are paying attention, because it is needed, you know. And I'm thankful that the discussion about mental health is beginning to be a little bit more common within the Black community and in religious spaces. And it's something that we definitely need, because I think about something Brother Nuri shared that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told him, how he said that we're living at a time where the people, unlike before, that is putting pressures on people's minds like never before, and people are not being able to handle it, right?
Right.
So we're coming up on our first break, and then brothers and sisters who are watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're asking others to tune in to hear what our brother is saying. We're going to learn more about the city where our brother is, and also some of his many other talents and skills that he has. So we'll be right back.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Muhammad's economic blueprint, the collective power of our dollars to build a future for ourselves. With 5 cents a day, 35 cents a week, $1.40 a month, and $18.20 a year multiplied by 16 million wage earners would give us $291 million in 1 year. Everyone can give 35 cents a week as an investment in our future. Donate now and see what our pennies, nickels, and dimes can accomplish. Visit economicblueprint.org.
And we're back, brothers and sisters. And I want to talk to our brother about this next thing. And I actually have a playlist of my brother on my Tidal streaming services of his music. He is a singer as well. Let me tell you something. I don't listen to stuff that I don't like. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care if it's somebody that's Nation of Islam or what, but I'll tell you, he has some very quality music. And I think on Tidal it's found under the JALLOW, right?
Yes, sir.
Jallo. So can you talk about your activity in in music, I would say it's R&B, right? And how people
Yes,
can
sir.
listen to some of your music as
Mhm.
well and see some of your videos.
Yes, sir. So I'm on the Navy being back a little. When I went to Africa, I was writing songs. It was something that I always found interest in. Um, Ironically, I watched men come in and out of my mother's life, and I would pay attention that they would always use three words, and I would watch how my mother and others would surrender with just three words, and it was "I love you." And I would watch the expressions, and in my heart, I wanted that same connection, and so I said, well, if I can come up with six words, I wonder what that would mean, how much that would mean to my mother if I could come up with six words. And so it took me on a quest to start studying or looking into words. I started off like most people. The only thing or the easiest content to write is, things that you shouldn't be talking about. But after my trip to Africa, when I got back, I knew that there had to be a necessary change because some of the things that I was talking about before, I didn't have any interest in talking about. And I remember one time, Brother Al Shahid came to Oklahoma City Study Group, and he was listening to a song that I had put out, right? And it wasn't particularly a Muslim song. And the first thing he told me is, he said, "Brother, that's a nice record." And so I went into trying to explain it, like, well, this is what it means. And he said, "Well, brother," he said, "you ain't got to explain it." He said, "Whatever comes to your mind that you're inspired to write," he said, "record it." And then he said, "God will clean it up when he wants to, when he's ready for it to be cleaned up." And that gave me so much inspiration because he didn't tell me to get rid of it, to throw it away. And so what I started doing was I started looking for producers that could tailor to the sound that I was needing, enriched a sound that would allow me to put messages or to put guidance into the music. And so I started writing concepts that would ease some of the questions or that would be enjoyable but entertaining at the same time. And once I started doing or being able to create content like that, it was way more enjoyable. It felt like a rostrum on a microphone with no crowd. It was just like me, the studio, and me talking to the people. And so I wrote a song, um, and I said, "You're getting older and more impatient, and you're tired of answering why it's complicated. Wasting your time having fun for the night when no one seems to treat you right." And the hook says, "Whatever you do, just promise you won't give up. Love is always on time." I said, "Your man is somewhere righting his wrongs. He won't be too long, and when he finds you, he's going to love you until God call you home." And I started seeing, I had friends of mine that called me when they were without a significant other. They reached a certain age and they weren't married. They would listen to that song, and instead of saying nobody wanted me, they started saying, "My man is coming. He's somewhere correcting his wrongs until they find me." And I started seeing how it was able to comfort some of the discomfort in our lives. And so I use it in that domain. Um, I write songs for my wife. I've even had my wife and children be a part of some of my videos to show them that you can be a Muslim and you can be uh, you can be someone of particular influence, to if I can say that humbly, and still be able to utilize your talents. I think there's a lot of young men and women, Brother Willie, that enjoys what the nation does, but they say, "But I rap, but I like singing, and I don't, this is a God-given talent." And so I would like to just tell those persons that come on home, and God will clean it up when he's ready to clean it up.
Man, I'm glad that you brought that up because, we have the Ministry of Arts and Culture. And to show you how powerful music is, we talk about how Brother Rahman was the person who played a key role in Muhammad Ali coming into the nation. But prior to that, Muhammad Ali heard a song
Hmm.
produced by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that even conditioned his mind to hear what Rahman was saying when he saw him out with the Muhammad Speaks. So for those in leadership inside the Nation of Islam, in mosque, in study groups, and just those in the Nation of Islam, period, what, from your perspective, what can we do to help remove that barrier or remove the impression that we may give intentionally or unintentionally to somebody to make them feel they can't bring their gift, their musical talent within in the nation.
Right. Well, the thing is this, Brother Willie, if it's God given,
Mm.
this is not something, you know, uh, a talent or a gift is something that God gave us. And I think it's something that God gives us for us to live through. It's how we express the best parts of ourselves. And it's new, but more importantly, I look at what it does for those who are looking for knowledge and truth. They're going to listen to somebody regardless anyway. It's just a part of life, right? But now they have somebody that not only that they can say, I like this brother or sister's music, but I am also inspired by their ability to do the music in the lifestyle that I also subscribe to. I pray 5 times a day too. I give in charity too. I want the resurrection of my people too. And so I think it's a tool. It's something that we can use to connect us with the people that are lost. And this is something that this is something that they hold on to. If you think about it like this, Brother Willie, you have some people that are not singers and songwriters, but when they're going through depression or something like that, it's an Anita Baker, it's a Tupac song, or Keep Your Head Up. It's these type of music or these type of persons that they go to give them a proper insight that I can get past this. And I think that when you look at those of us in the Nation of Islam and they mention a Ruku or they mention a Jallo or a Golden Child, and then they can go to a mosque, a study group, and shake your hand and be close to you and ask you about what influenced you or what can I do better. It helps them to better fine-tune that gift that they have inside of themselves. When I think about how many of our people, brother, who are good at things, but because we have that lack of self-love, they bury their talents, and then they almost live life dissatisfied because no one wants to hear the song that I can write. Nobody wants to hear the voice that I find beautiful. And I think that it's necessary, brother. You know, the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gives us the guidance on how to use these gifts and talents to draw the people closer to God. But they can find a friend in us as well. I was at Savior's Day here recently, and me and a brother spent an hour. We were going over my songs, and it does something for him, but it does something for me as well. He even called his wife on FaceTime, and he was like, "You won't believe who I'm with." And he put me on the camera, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's Jallo." I'm only saying that to say that does so much for me because these are members of the Nation of Islam with me, and I didn't have to look outside of my nation to be appreciated. I got it amongst the believers, so it's something that I absolutely love doing, brother. And I tell some of my friends that are in the world, they say, man, you should spend more time doing it. Or you could be big or this, that, and the third. I said, well, brother, I wear more hats than you do. The beauty is that I can service the people. I can be a man at home and I can still create quality music when Allah allows me to have that time. So the greatest reward that I can give or the greatest reward that I can receive is just the blessings of Allah to be able to have the talent. And it's a beautiful gift to have, brother. I know that was a long answer, but
No, that was on point. And I'm gonna tell you, man, your music is quality, brother. When I put it
thank you,
on
brother.
and play it in my playlist, I ride all the way through with it, brother. And
Thank you, sir.
keep pushing it. It's just unfortunate. One of the things I think about, like, artists who are very skilled and very talented that are not given the shine and exposure that they deserve because we're
Right.
in this world where Satan just is polluting stuff with the quality music that he is. And I can imagine for some people it may make them question their own skill set, but they shouldn't. It's just this world in which we're living in. But keep
Mm,
pushing it, man. Cream rises to the top. And
that-
let me ask you this question, because I'm big on this. This show gives us the opportunity to record our stories, right? You talked about how you came into the Nation of Islam, but I want to also ask you, from based upon what you know, your ability, can you give us some history about the presence of the Nation of Islam in OKC?
Yes, sir. I believe Oklahoma is one of those places where the history of the Nation of Islam here is a rich history, but there has to be persons here to tell that history. And that's something that I've picked up the skill of learning how to use. They say the best camera to use is the one that's on you all the time. So I started using my phone to document interactions between the believers without it being almost staged in a sense. I got this skill when I was in Africa. I was going into the villages. I was going and feeding the animals and all these different things. But everything in my portfolio I brought back was a portrait. And I gave it to the instructor and she gave me an F. And I said, why did I get an F? And she said, because everything is a portrait. It's you next to a person looking at the camera. It doesn't show what you're doing. It doesn't show anything other than the fact that you took a picture. And when she did that, I started going out and I had to find a way on how to capture certain things that I was doing while I was in Africa. And when I got to the study group, I thought to do that as well. So what I usually do is I'll have a brother and he'll play his post is the historian. So his job is to capture all of the intimate interactions between myself and the believers with each other or with the community. And then what we do is we show the people the beauty of the work that we're doing. And so Brother Terry is one from my earliest times being here that was at the spearhead of trying to get Oklahoma City on the right track. And he did an amazing job. He taught me many lessons to this day that I still hold on to. I think that there was Brother Theodore GX and many others. But when I got here, we didn't see a lot of them, brother. So the earlier years, I don't have a lot of information on. And so what I started doing for myself and for the believers here is making sure that I document as much as I can, make sure that I'm journaling on different experiences that I have. So in the event that something happens to me, or in the event that there are others that come after us, that it kind of give them a blueprint of what we endured, what we made it through, and what our successes were, so that they can take some of those things for themselves and use the best practices that we use. But I think with the race riot and the misconception of Black Wall Street I'm speaking of, and all of the misconception from the media and things like that, those who may have seen the minister but became dissatisfied at some point and walked away, they took that dissatisfaction and passed it on. And so I think that now when they see the work that we're trying to do here in Oklahoma City, their children, they're coming back and they're saying, let me take a deeper look into this thing. Let me look deeper into it. Yes, sir.
And there's something you said. Well, I'm going to ask you this question and it's going to lead to the other. You mentioned about Brother Terry. You said there was some jewels that he shared with you. Like, can you share some stuff that he shared?
Sure. One thing Brother Terry taught me, brother, it was a song that I think it was Donny Hathaway. He gave me this song called "He's Not Heavy, He's My Brother." And we were riding in the car and we were listening to it, and I was listening to the passion again to go to music, listening to the passion of. And that brother said, he's not heavy, he's my brother. So when I think about the mission, I'm like, our problems are not heavy. These are my people. And I have to, as much as I can in the time that Allah allows me to be on this planet, I have to do something to service my people, because it is indirect me doing in servicing of myself. But one thing Brother Terry taught me, brother, is he taught me to always have a heart to see the best quality of the people. He told me, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to be spoken ill of by those who have been influenced by the media and those who are contrary to the teachings of Islam. He said, but even through all of that, brother, find some type of way to connect the better parts of you with the part that they can understand. And I think all of us, Brother Willie, we can't introduce the people to the minister if they got to fall in love with us first. What I mean by that is, if they fall in love with us first, regardless if they stay or not, they know when they see a star and crescent that I got friends there. I think that also played a part in why I'm in so many different fraternities, brother, because I love my people and I love fraternalism, and I'm not going to take it back. It's something about it that I have a genuine natural interest in. And one time I was in my lodge, if you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah.
I was in the lodge and I had my Nation of Islam pin on, and one of the brothers, he said, "This is not the place to wear that." And I may be paraphrasing. He said, I wouldn't wear that. Almost in a sense to say, my square and compass would have probably been more appropriate. Which, in a sense, I understand. But I didn't feel any kind of way because he was being sincere with where he was. And I said, "Yes, sir, I appreciate it, brother." I said, "But I'm not gonna take it off though." And then I went on to ask him how his day was. But I ended up bringing that conversation to the brother who was over the lodge. And one meeting he called me up and he said, "Brother Mario X, could you stand for me, brother?" And I stood. And then he said, "Who told him to take this pen off?" And the brother said, "Oh, I did, brother." And he said, "Could you stand for me?" He said, "He don't got to take that off." He said, if anything, we all need to be wearing it. And he said, because that's his light. And that just showed the value of friendships in all walks of life. And I hope the brother don't mind me sharing this. When his brother transitioned, his brother subscribed to Islam and his brother transitioned. May Allah be pleased with him. He called my phone to do his Muslim wash. And I'd never done it before. So I called Brother Shaheed and he said, "Okay, well, I'll send you the tips on doing it, and I'll send you the material. Do it." I said, "Well, okay, all right." I called a couple of brothers and he said, "Can I stay?" And I watched. And he watched us handle his brother with care. He watched us not judge the lifestyle that he lived. He watched us pray over him. He watched some of us cry over him. He watched us wrap his brother to return back to his burial place. And he gave me a hug and he said, "I loved you before." He said, "Not this love I have for you now is eternal."
Dang.
And he's been like a father to me as well, brother. So there are many things in our lives that we do that connect us with people. We just got to find value in them. Use those to put ourselves amongst the people. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. And you were talking about how you're using and documenting the history. And one of the things I recently told you, and I'll say it again publicly, man, you're doing an excellent job in the photography, the audio, and what you're doing. Would be good that you could teach a class to those of us in our cities. The way that you're doing is very captivating, is very beautifully aesthetic. I don't know if you went to class to learn that or that's just you. Can you talk
brother.
more about that?
Well, yeah, so I've always been interested in photography. It came along with the music, right? When you're making a song, when you get with a videographer, they say, let's come up with a treatment, is what they call it. But then I would see brothers like brothers doing different things in the world, and they didn't have a camera. They didn't spend $1,000 on a camera, but we spent this amount of money on a phone. And again, I ran across a quote that says the best camera is the one that's on you all the time. And so I started realizing that instead of me having a camera that is bulky that I have to carry around, why don't I just utilize the best quality of a phone that I can find? But I think the key thing for me, Brother Willie, is I study or I look at, and really it's a natural thing, certain angles. It's not something that I really kind of picked up from people. It's what I would want to see. So if I see you and somebody and I see that this interaction or this moment with him is about to be passionate, I'll automatically start recording. And I'll get those facial expressions and how you all are handling and interacting with each other. And then what I started doing was I started using music that the people already have an emotional attachment to. And in most cases, sometimes it's Christian music. Like I Told the Storm. I don't care what religion you believe in. When you hear that song, it does something for you. So what I started doing was using our imagery, the way that we naturally interact with each other. And then I would use songs that they already have an attachment to and try to merge the two. to give them an expression of what Islam is for us. And the more I do it, I just found myself becoming passionate about it. I find myself looking at different ways of doing it. So it's something, it's just another, I guess you could say, another talent that I recently discovered. I would use our brother Ben. You know, I can remember him making videos in his car when he was younger, you know, when he first started, right? And then to see the success that he's having now from a phone. And what I'm looking to get out of it, with what I'm doing, is to show people that what we have, this love we talk about, is sincere. And I think that's what I'm looking to do, is to just show people that our interactions with each other is sincere and is pure, and we handle each other with care. And so when I post videos like that, brother, people will inbox you and say, I'm interested, or I want to learn more about what it, because they, when people see us, brother, whether they walk in a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a study group, wherever they go, if there's a teaching for life there, they're coming looking for salvation, brother. They're looking for salvation. But in, you know, straight down to the modern times, we have to show them the beauty of it. And so I just started using, and not only just with like the study group, with me, with my children, I do videos and things like that to show people that, yes, I'm a Muslim, and yes, I'm helping to raise Oklahoma City, but I like making music. I like fashion. I like fraternalism. So what I did was, I also did this too, Brother Willie. It was a young lady from my hometown that posted amazing pictures. And I inboxed her and I said, what camera do you use? She said, I use my phone. I said, well, how do you come up, how do you make it look a certain way? And she said, I make it look the way I feel. She told me, find the best parts of your life that you don't mind sharing with people, and make that the theme of your platform. So fraternalism, Islam, fatherhood, leadership.
Man.
Those are the themes of the life, of the part of my life that I want to share. And so I took that advice from the sister, and it's been successful for me thus far, by Allah's grace.
Man, that is good. I'm gonna have to get with you so you can show me how to use some of the filters. 'Cause I try to
Yes,
take
sir.
some
Yes, sir.
selfies sometimes, and they don't
I
be
was,
they don't
you're
they don't
doing
really
good,
be
brother. Yes,
working.
sir.
No, I might hit a miss every once in a while, but they don't be working. But I'm still gonna try. And I want to mention this. I want to ask you this question as we get ready to close out, because you mentioned how when you were in the lodge and the brother had, talk about remove the pen. On the opposite side, unfortunately, you have some within the Nation of Islam who are very narrow-minded and don't understand the mission. And really, even though we might quote friendship in all walks of life, we really don't understand that, right? That may look at your posts and see you in the various fraternal organizations, Masonic organizations, and may not understand it. Can you talk a moment as we close about how that it is no contradiction?
Right. The goal is, well, I always like to use this as a base, brother. Early in our development as a people, as we were coming out of chattel slavery, there were only a few things that you could be: a sharecropper, a preacher, or a mason. And so when I started looking at the early developments of us as a people, we're talking about masonry starting off, actually it's our science. It's not somebody else's. This is our science. And so when I looked at that, I said that the lodges, for example, the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows, which I'm a member, was founded in 1842. When I look at that, I'm sorry, 1843. But when I look at that, brother, these were the institutions that these men used to teach themselves how to love each other. It taught them organization. It taught them to pool their resources. Way back then, I think that fraternal orders is one of those things that they made sure to infiltrate or to put misconceptions on, because it will pull the people together and it will give them the mind to do for self. There were Odd Fellow homes for the sick and distressed. a lot of these insurance companies, from my knowledge, took their base of burial insurance from fraternal orders. Back in the day, every brother would pay a certain amount of money that if a brother fell ill and wasn't able to work, the lodge provided him with those funds to take care of his family. When he died, the family didn't have to be burdened with burying him. They bought land so that they could lay together even unto death. So when I started looking at those things, I said that these organizations provided us with a platform that you may not have meant nothing to the world, but you're the chaplain here. You're the steward here. You have a title here. You have a responsibility here, and it gives you recognition in the lodge that you were not getting in the world. And so I just became almost in awe with the beautiful history of it all. And I think a lot of the misconceptions, brother, come in when you've had conversations with, or if you've taken in information from other people and you don't know how to place it in Islam, right? I'm a member Kappa Alpha Psi. It's a Black organization that was founded in 1911 for Black men who were on campus when you couldn't have no more than probably 10. So these men suffered with depression and isolation, and they suffered from all of these different things, but they came together under the banner of fraternalism to be able to have some comfort in each other, and it grew into a worldwide organization. It grew into a worldwide organization. So I think, brother, that is something that that has provided me with a great amount of influence. I know the minister spoke about this at the Million Man March. He said, join an organization, right? Of some sort. It don't have to be a fraternal order, but join some type of organization and pull yourself with your people. And so that's exactly what I did, brother. And I recently joined the Improved Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks. And I was reading the history, and back in the 1920s, they had a revenue of over $2 million in the early 1900s. And I think that the minister said wherever there's an organization or wherever there's Black people galvanizing, there's always going to be sent in one from amongst us to dismantle a lot of these things. So you see a lot of these institutions today, a lot of them are, they're dying out, and some have died out, Brother Willie. You have some organizations, they're not here anymore. So me joining and me adding or myself to these organizations not only secures that they'll survive with whatever benefit that I can give, but they can also say, when they mention the Elks or Oddfellows or the Masons or Kappa or Muscovite, they can say, we got a brother that's a Muslim over there. And and it's a beautiful thing. I know members of Kappa for a while, when we had new brothers that wanted to come in, I would ask those brothers to come and visit me at the mosque or the study group. And I remember there was about 10 men, and they were in the training process of going through the membership intake process with reading the material. And I asked them to come to the mosque, and all 10 of them showed up. And I gifted them with a message to the Black man, and even when I see them now, they give me the greetings. So we got friends in all walks of life, brother. I think that the misconception is, it's almost like this, Brother Willie. When you make a change in your life, it's not that people don't want to be around you. They just don't know what to do with you anymore. They say, man, we can't talk to him about drinking. He don't do that no more.
Right.
We can't talk to him about doing this. He don't do that anymore. And so I stay in the organizations. I help as much as my time would allow me to do it. But more importantly, though, anything good that I do, that it can be attributed to the organization because I'm an active member of it.
Praise be to Allah. And we thank you, brother, for the wealth of information that you shared. And I hope this will help those who see this from what you shared about the music, you being in the fraternities and even Masonic orders, and also in regards to the work that you do around mental health. So may Allah continue to bless you, my brother, and thank you for being a guest.
Thank you, brother. May Allah bless you as well.
Yes, sir. And for those who are watching, walaikum salam. For those who are watching, we thank you for tuning in. And this is your brother signing off with another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.